If you wish to close the door, please do. If you'd rather it open, that's fine too. Okay. Are we ready, Ben?
Yeah.
Good. I would like you to feel comfortable in the way you're sitting. You may even go to sleep, of course, but make yourself comfortable and try to listen, not to my voice particularly, but what is being said, and to see if any of it resonates with your own experience. I shall go fairly slowly, so let me begin. If we wanted to encapsulate what is so attractive about 17th century writers, we might well agree with David Scott, who, in the foreword of Dennis Ing's book on the poetry and prose of Thomas Traherne, says that there are three main reasons. They write well, they tell eternal truths, and for our spiritually bewildered age, they fill a dry well with clear, fresh water. Furthermore, their language is fresh, vibrant, and with plenty of content, capable of evoking in us a variety of emotions and thoughts, and transporting us to a different place. But it is filling a dry well with clear, fresh water that especially appeals to me. And what I want to offer you in this reflection are some words and concepts and themes which have touched me deeply, and which may, I hope, resonate with you. This stunning waterfall, which, as I said, may well have been known to Henry Vaughan, is in the Brecon Beacons National Park and is called in English Fall of Snow. Obviously, it reminds me of his poem, The Waterfall, in which his admiration for nature is very apparent. For me, it has that sense of casting care aside and plunging headlong into the deep, into potential disaster and destruction, a rocky grave perhaps, only to emerge, phoenix-like, free to continue travelling, this time, as we heard this morning, on an even longer, brighter, braver course. And for me it speaks of death and resurrection. In his poem, The World, Vaughan sees God and creation as in images of light and dark brightness. And those wonderful lines we heard this morning. I saw eternity the other night, like a great ring of pure and endless light, all calm as it was bright. He creates a picture of the world in eternity, timeless in time, a view which rejects the frippery of the world, and by looking attentively, sees a flower. This reminds me of many other poets. Just one example, perhaps, is Mary Oliver, with her close attention to detail. It also taps into the very current concept of mindfulness, which is all about heightened awareness, attending to what is in the now, really seeing what is there. In his poem, The Night, Vaughan uses that oh so enigmatic phrase, dazzling darkness. The paradoxical nature of bright darkness seems an utter contradiction. How can both light, so bright that it is almost blinding, and deep, deep darkness coexist at the same time? And yet, perhaps, it may be possible to hold apparent opposites, something that is both and. Can we not combine these two concepts? Beauty that is created, that is revealed and apparent, and glory that remains concealed, hidden from view. And seeing the light may not only refer to physical sight, but spiritual insight, which may be experienced even in the deepest possible darkness. The language of contemplation speaks of both. So we might ponder the possibility of beholding God in multiplicity, colour, complexity, poetry and song, while at the same time, not so easy perhaps, letting go of all these things. Consider two images. Firstly, Moses ascending Mount Sinai alone in order to meet God in total darkness. This image of divine darkness is frequently used as a symbol of God's incomprehensibility. The second image, the transfiguration of Christ on Mount Tabor, witnessed by his closest disciples, his face shining like the sun, his garments white as light. Here God is seen as pure light, but this is uncreated light, divine light, bright light that transcends all human concepts of light. Can we not hold these two images together, the darkness of Sinai and the light of Tabor, referring to one and the same God? Another striking contradiction for me is Christ dying on the cross. Luke says, "It was midday, and a darkness fell over the whole land, which lasted until 3 in the afternoon, and the sun's light failed." And yet, according to John, this is Christ's shining moment, when all is accomplished, the work is done. Paradoxically, in Christian terms, this is also when we are closest to Christ, perhaps even experiencing firsthand some of his emptiness and abandonment. Like Vaughan, Thomas Traherne had a profound love of nature and a strong sense of the glory of creation. Could we have the wheat field? No?
No?
There we are. This was one of many images, all of which were exquisite, as if the wheat is actually shining from within. And if you've read the Centuries of Traherne in the third century, he says, The corn was orient and immortal wheat, which never should be reaped, nor was ever sown. I thought it had stood from everlasting to everlasting. Apparent here is a profound sense of wonder and love for the natural world. It gives him and us a sense of delight and desire, enabling our souls to stretch outwards and upwards. Traherne reasons that God's immanent presence, which he sees so clearly in creation, must necessarily be present, not only in heaven, but also in beauty and its many forms in the natural world. With his grace-filled perception of God's generosity, he sees this divine generosity woven into the very fabric of the universe. For him, humankind is the pinnacle of God's creation, the eighth day. What an awesome thought to even imagine that we might be a golden link between the spiritual and physical worlds. We come now to the windows. I think perhaps Traherne's greatest theme is the innocence of childhood. He was born, as we heard this morning, with a celestial vision, which he described as that divine light wherewith I was born. Despite the apostasy he admitted to while he was at Oxford, he never forgot those divine experiences, those early experiences, and his memory of heaven, which enabled his soul to continue its journey into the world and beyond. Being born with the divine light surrounding him, he saw the world transfigured. How like an angel came I down, how bright are all things here. And though the radiance of that early experience had lessened, his memory of it had not. Jesus said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." For Traherne, the innocence of childlikeness is essential for the kingdom. Young children are pure of heart. They take things at face value, living very much in the moment. This is really young children. They have not yet learned to deceive. Childlike innocence necessarily comes before any knowledge of good and evil. Traherne is sorrowful for those who have reached adulthood and on the way lost that childhood joy, ironically missing out the true understanding, according to him, of the divine nature of all creation. But all is not lost. That sense of paradise can be found again. Jesus has restored innocence. He has reclaimed the original blessing, which was God's gift of creation at the very beginning of time, and which always was prior to original sin. We need to be reawakened so that we can find once more, to discover once more, to be receptive to that naked, childlike innocence, that sense of wonder and boundless love. We need to rediscover that we are all forgiven and much loved sinners, worthy of the benefits and the blessings of the kingdom. Above all, perhaps, we need to learn once more how to trust. Something that sounds so simple, but is not at all easy. I am reminded of those words which I'm sure most of you will have heard by Minnie Louise Haskins. And I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, "Give me a light, that I may tread safely into the unknown." And he replied, "Go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That shall be better for you than light and safer than a known way." So I went forth, and finding the hand of God, trod gladly into the night. And he led me towards the hills and the breaking of day in the lone east. The question is, how much do we want to trust again? How much do we want to recover our sense of curiosity and begin that journey of discovery for ourselves? Some say that trust begins in the womb. But as we grow and learn the ways of the world, the highly creative energy most of us have from birth diminishes. As the glimpses of glory we might have caught as very small children become fewer, our capacity to become who we might be may diminish. We are so used to wearing masks to hide our true selves that we lose sight of who we really are. We put our faith in what we have, what we do, rather than who we are. But every time we catch a peek at that child within, that child who wants to flourish and fulfill their potential, if we look, we can see a window through which we can see what it might take to make a bid for freedom. Experiencing love is the most liberating solution to this, though not without its risks and its dangers. It makes us vulnerable. Can our determination to find our true selves give us the courage to look into the void? Can we dare to leap into the unknown? Jesus says, "Come unto me, all who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." If we trust his words, secure in his love, we may just discover once again that we are made in the image and likeness of God. Just a few words about the mystical nature and the personal faith of Traherne's writings that are expressed there. Through his life and his work, Traherne sought to understand and embrace the nature of God, both within creation and within man's soul. As I've said, remembering his early childhood, he referred back to that divine light wherewith I was born, thus affirming an essentially good creation. Centuries, which I hope you will have looked at. His writings are known for their spiritual intensity and breadth of vision, in which all creation is seen as belonging to the receptive soul. For him, God's infinite love, goodness, splendour, and utter glory, for the enjoyment is for the enjoyment of all who desire to participate in a relationship with the divine. With his immense capacity to perceive the extraordinary in the ordinary and not be dragged down by the darkness and suffering of the world, Traherne was enabled to pursue a pilgrimage into spiritual illumination and growth. His vision of creation enabled him to see the senses as spiritual and the spiritual as sensuous. We are indebted to him for giving us a perception of God whose essence is a source of delight and of inestimable value. For me, the vision of a gracious and creative God expressed in these mystical poets raises my spirits and fills me with hope. In this sorrowful world, there is so much that can drag us down, and it is all too easy to forget the presence of goodness and beauty, the kindness and the love that is expressed by human beings for each other, as well as for the entire natural order. As I mentioned earlier, our Lord came to reclaim God's original blessing, to restore the balance, and to remind us that the essence of God is goodness, love, and forgiveness. What I suggest we try to do is to be thankful and trust God's grace. Let us continue our inner journey through life, confident that in those tender words of Mother Julian, and as Vaughan and Traherne would undoubtedly have endorsed, sin is behovely, but all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well.